On a Sunday night in Istanbul, Aierken Saimaiti sat in a cafe with a phone in his hand and a new passport 5 days away. He had spent years moving money out of Central Asia, by his own account at least $700 million. Then he began giving the records to journalists. Bank statements, wire orders, cash declarations, contracts that described textiles, motor oil, and spare parts, even when the money appeared to be flowing toward property in offshore companies. Before the investigation was finished, Saimaiti was shot dead in his chair. His killers did not destroy the files, and the family whose companies received much of the money did not disappear. According to later reporting by the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, Radio Free Europe, Kloop, and Vlast, companies tied to that family went on to commit at least $2 billion to towers, factories, bazaars, hotels, pipelines, and state-backed projects. This is how an underground cargo route became foreign investment. $700 million is Saimaiti's number. The documents did not prove every dollar of it. Reporters said the records he provided supported roughly half of the total. But Kyrgyz financial police reached a number of their own. They concluded that Saimaiti had sent nearly $647 million abroad in 2,631 transfers. The agency did not declare all of those transfers criminal. Its head suggested some could have represented ordinary business. That distinction matters. This story is not a verdict delivered by a narrator. It is a trail built from Saimaiti's claims, government findings, bank records, contracts, company filings, and reporting across several countries. The trail begins with trucks. For centuries, Central Asia made fortunes from movement. Silk, tea, horses, cotton, oil. By the early 21st century, the cargo was cheaper and more ordinary: clothing, electronics, household goods, spare parts. But the old geography still mattered. Chinese merchandise moved west from Xinjiang, crossed the mountains into Kyrgyzstan, and continued toward bazaars in Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Russia, and beyond. At the center of the network was Abu Sahi, a vast wholesale market in Tashkent. The family behind it was led by Habibullah Abdukadir, a secretive businessman born in China and connected to companies across Central Asia, Turkey, Germany, the United Arab Emirates, Britain, and the United States. According to the joint investigation, the Abdukadir family's advantage was not a better truck. It was a road that behaved differently for them. Competitors described delays, inspections, and obstacles. The family's cargo, reporters wrote, moved through checkpoints with help from a powerful political patron, Rai Imbek Matraimov, then a senior official in Kyrgyzstan's customs service. The reporting alleged that officials at different levels received portions of the proceeds. In return, favored shipments achieved results competitors said they could not match. That is how a customs gate can become a business model. Not by closing the road, by deciding whose truck must stop. To understand the power of that advantage, forget the image of a single customs officer asking for a bribe. A regional trading network is a contest of time, volume, and certainty. A truck delayed for 1 day ties up the driver's wage, the vehicle, the fuel, and the inventory. A shipment opened for inspection can miss the buyer waiting in the next country. A competitor who cannot predict the border cannot promise a delivery date. But a trader who knows the route will stay open can price lower, move faster, and take more of the market. Soon, customers stop choosing between equal suppliers. They choose the only supplier who can deliver with confidence. That is how political access becomes logistics. And logistics becomes monopoly. The cost does not stop at the border. When goods are underdeclared or misclassified, the state collects less revenue. Honest traders pay the full charge while the protected network gains another advantage. Public institutions lose money, competitors lose ground, and the favored operator becomes more difficult to challenge with every trip. In a wealthy country, that would be serious. In Kyrgyzstan, where public budgets were already strained and millions of dollars represented schools, roads, salaries, and services, the scale described by Saimaiti was staggering. The empire did not need to own the state. It needed the state to price the road differently for everyone else. Saimaiti described a machine running at industrial scale. He estimated that Abu Sahi trucks completed about 600 cargo trips each month from China's Xinjiang region through Kyrgyzstan and toward Tashkent. He claimed the system generated roughly $3 million a month in illicit payments. Those figures came from Saimaiti and must be treated as claims, not court findings. But reporters said they corroborated the broader customs arrangement through interviews with officials, traders, businesspeople, and competitors. The cargo itself performed a kind of disappearing act. According to the investigation, some trucks unloaded goods at a facility near the Uzbek border. The empty vehicles then continued into Uzbekistan carrying transit papers, while the merchandise remained available for sale elsewhere. Paper said one thing. The physical goods did another. And that gap between the document and the cargo was where the margin lived. Moving goods created profit. Moving the profit required another system. Uzbekistan maintained strict currency controls. Large amounts of money could not simply leave the country through the front door. Saimaiti said cash was carried across the border and deposited in Kyrgyzstan. The same contracts used to explain the movement of goods could then provide an origin story for the money. 5 contracts he gave reporters, signed over only 2 months in 2014, described $114 million in textiles and other materials to be imported within a year. The money then moved outward. Round number transfers, offshore companies, loan agreements, payment descriptions that did not always resemble the recipient's business. Reporters traced funds into bank accounts and real estate in the United Arab Emirates, Europe, and the United States. This was not money vanishing. It was money acquiring paperwork. And the most important part of laundering is not where the money goes. It is the story the documents tell about where the money came from. Here is the contradiction at the center of this empire. It was described as underground, but it depended on institutions above ground. Banks processed transfers. Customs posts recorded trucks. Companies filed ownership documents. Property registries recorded purchases. Government offices approved projects. The alleged secret passed through thousands of hands. So what exactly was hidden? Not the existence of the transactions. Their relationship to one another. A transfer in Germany looked separate from a customs terminal in Tashkent. A Dubai tower looked separate from a bazaar near the old Silk Road. A textile contract looked separate from a house in the United States. The files Saimaiti preserved mattered because they connected the pieces. And that created a new problem for the man who had helped move the money. Saimaiti was not an outsider who stumbled onto a scandal. He described himself as a professional money launderer. He said he moved the money, signed the contracts, arranged the transfers, and took a share. That makes him a difficult protagonist. He was a participant, a beneficiary, and eventually a source. In the spring and summer of 2019, he began sharing records with reporters from Radio Azadik, Kloop, and the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. As his trust grew, the files multiplied. Cash declarations, wire orders, bank statements, contracts, names of senders and recipients, dates, account numbers, destination countries. Journalists spent months testing the claims against company records, interviews, court decisions, and field reporting. Saimaiti was also trying to secure a new identity. He expected to receive a new passport. 5 days before that could happen, he was murdered. The public reporting cited for this film does not establish who ordered the killing or why. Any stronger claim would turn an investigation into fiction. What the record does establish is simpler. Saimaiti was killed after he began sharing the files. The files survived him. Exposure brought consequences, but not the ending many viewers would expect. Rai Imbek Matraimov, the former customs official named as a key political ally in the reporting, was later sanctioned by the United States under the Global Magnitsky Program. Kyrgyz authorities also pursued him. He pleaded guilty in a corruption case and surrendered assets. The Abdukadir family, according to the later joint investigation, appeared to face no comparable reckoning. Instead, the business network changed scale and vocabulary. Companies that had received money Saimaiti said he moved began appearing behind projects that looked fully legitimate. Residential towers in Dubai, a planned hotel, factories in Kazakhstan, gas infrastructure near Konayev, housing developments, mosques, customs terminals, a market in Tashkent that remained central to the same regional trading network. The alleged smuggling empire had not simply sent money away. It had sent money through enough jurisdictions to bring it home with a different biography. Reporters reviewing corporate records, land records, government investment data, and internal company documents identified at least $2 billion in Abdulkadir-linked projects and luxury assets across several continents. They described that figure as conservative. At least $1.5 billion in current or planned projects in Uzbekistan was classified as foreign direct investment. Technically, the money was foreign. It arrived through companies based outside the country. Historically, the story was more complicated. The same reporting connected some of those companies to funds Saimaiti said he had moved out of Central Asia. Projects received publicity, state land, tax advantages, and public appearances with political leaders. Kyrgyz President Sadir Japarov made his position plain. He said he was not interested in what kind of relationship the family had with previous presidents. What mattered, he said, was that they were not on a wanted list, that there were no criminal cases against them, and that they were ready to invest money in Kyrgyzstan. Those, he said, he greets with applause. That sentence closes the circle. Money once accused of leaving through a hidden network returned as evidence of development. The route had changed. The welcome had changed. The history of the money had not. This is not only a story about corruption. It is a story about supply chains as political power. A customs official can shape a market without owning a single shop. A favored trader can dominate a region without inventing a product. A bank can process an ordinary payment that becomes suspicious only when connected to 100 others. And foreign investment can be real, productive, and welcomed while still carrying an unresolved history. That is why Saimaiti's documents mattered. They did not reveal one suitcase of cash. They revealed a business system. Goods moved one way. Money moved another. Influence connected both. And when exposure came, the empire did not collapse. It adapted. Aierken Saimaiti did not live to see the investigation completed. The people who killed him did not erase the records he had already shared. Those records helped reporters trace an alleged cargo monopoly, a cross-border money network, and the transformation of disputed wealth into celebrated projects. The final question is not whether the money crossed a border. It crossed many. The question is what happened when it came back. When money returns as foreign investment, what has really been laundered? The cash, or the history of how it was made. Subscribe to keep reading the deleted chapters.